this type of affliction. Therefore, let's calmly, humbly, and slowly carry out our plans and expectations. Nerves get in the way of everything. 98. Pretension. Why did the sun and beautiful flowers appear in this world? To enchant us. It's a simple matter. Children right after birth still remember this scam and repeatedly cry because of where they are. After that, it's basically sheer perversion and insinuation. Politically, it's election sausage. Cosmically, life here and now in discomfort and uncertainty of tomorrow. 99. The noblest of works, the most valuable human effort on earth, should be love. For it alone brings the greatest benefit in everything. Everything. There is nothing more beautiful and creative under heaven. As it is good, gentle, patient, listening, humble, non-aggressive, not elevating the intellect above the soul, light, and laboring with a whiff of gentleness and beauty all around. It will not kill. It will not knowingly step on an ant or other insect. It will not break a twig without a purpose. It will not step on anyone's toes. It will explain and justify everyone. It will give a hand to everyone. And as a gift, it will give a smile and a gentle word to keep the flame burning. In addition, love vibrates with humor and unfunny wit. It is lyrical, picturesque, poetic, romantic. It is the music of joyful reverie, and yet that to which words fade and kneel before it in awe. 100. Life is set at an angle to make everyone fearful and anxious about their bodies and views. Hence came blind faith and hope, incorporated into positive thinking. Whatever a person does, immediately there is fear, anxiety, stress, lest something be lost, lest something be damaged or wasted. That's why you run away from danger. Animals, moreover, do the same. What is the primary reason for this? There is nothing left to do but to search persistently for the answer to this. It is said that he who seeks finds. The more you know, the greater you are. Padre Pio's words. 101. Happiness is fluid and can be molded with every heartfelt thought, every glance, every flowing hair in a lady, and a man's tan, characterlessness. At will as one expects, what one wants and even what one does not expect, to be pleasantly surprised. Such is the heaven that God created for us, but we still have to wait a little longer, and we will experience it realistically. At the moment, there is no fullness in the cosmos. It is necessary to reach for the cosmos of God, true and attractive life in heaven. 102. The momentous things for man are to remember his own wonderful, God-created soul. These are the most important things. To adapt oneself to accept eternal life, already without reincarnation, in happiness and mutual love. May this life for everyone already be the last on this earth. Padre Pio's words. But perhaps someone will ask, why do we need to evolve to suffer if the soul is godlike? It is worth remembering this, which happened in very ancient times. Then the matter will become clear why we still need development and science. Development in science testifies to the collapse into which we were forced by violence. In fact, development in science never existed and never will. There is only the artistry and artistry of love, nothing more. But this is only the future. God is love. Existence and delight are love. Forms of pleasure of eternal existence, enjoyment, are love. 103. Eternal damnation is the view of certain secular and religious elites who would most gladly put everyone in hell. When someone does wrong, after all, almost everyone condemns them. But we will wise up and return to what is our true eternal essence. Reincarnation leads us to that very goal. The Church will take back the knowledge of reincarnation. Padre Pio's words. Not for much longer he used to have it, but disavowed it for the idea of hell. 104. Just as politicians, medics, churches are at odds with each other, so is science similarly. Science is at odds with itself. Already there is talk of a whole new physics. The full truth will never be revealed here. Someone is watching over it to make sure it happens. Star Wars, this is real symbolism. Someone wisely said that only love fulfills the law, because only love extinguishes science, aggression, that is, ignorance and all limitations. But this is yet to come, beyond earth already in the hereafter. 105. In material life there is only development, experience, and constant learning, expansion of still unknown to us, the soul. Material consciousness helps in this. However, consciousness is only a prelude to reaching the fullness of perfection of superconsciousness, the soul. In heaven too there is cognition. Padre Pio's words, there one gets to know the imagination of love of other beings. 106. God does not use conceptual logic in the human sense. If he did, he would hurt us all. He uses the objects of love. But this is a very difficult issue for humans. 107. Life on earth is a form of purgatory purification from lack of love. It is the collection of valuable for personal development experiences. But it is only a way to the true goal, eternal bliss of each individual. Someday experiences, tears, annoyances will cease to matter and will fall away once and for all. Of course, real and achievable only outside this cosmos. 108. We are trapped in the reactions of material consciousness. This is a deliberate game created by cosmic scientists who rule like us. Their own possessions. They don't care about our happiness, but about us being born again and again into this kolkhoz, and thus sustaining their idea of biological life. They are concerned with humiliating us and destroying our sense of eternal soul, just as the communists did with the expelled soldiers to make them, and future generations, forget who they were and what they fought for. It's no different in the cosmos with the scientists' creators. Therefore, we do not yet live in heaven, but in planetary exile. It is necessary to shake off this every day and proceed to the mountain of the heart. 109. It's a good thing my brain is missing. All that's left is a gray trunk. I'm not complaining that there's only water in my head. This only proves where I live, and what is my dark side. I rebel against the brain. The less of it I have, the better for the soul. Yes, quite a perverse statement, according to modern psychology and philosophy. The strategy of matter is geared towards evolutionary killing of the soul. No one cares about the soul, but only about the complex university of material life. Law and science is a finite utopia, which all past and present civilizations have fallen for by the mistake of angels. Let's note, civilizations have produced more weapons, bombs, bullets for rifles, pills, vaccines that destroy our bodies than there are people in the world. Civilizations, and in them at various degrees of sophistication, science is a tool for enslaving all materialistic beings. It is a tool for the corruption of the pure soul, because it does not allow the thought that it is possible to exist differently, to live without knowledge, to live in full fact, for the brain alien to this science. But even Jesus already talked about it. But who listens to him? The Catholic Church, my church, listens to him the least. 110. Primal soul, woven from love, love again, loving love. And for this reason ask yourself, why doesn't love want to be loved? Who is blocking it? Some kind of flaw? Yes, an ancient blemish. But I, against the fallen heavens in which I currently reside, I will love, even if someone slaps me. To love, this has been our dream for millennia. And may this love move to eternity. And there I will no longer try to love, but I will abide in love, in contact with an infinite number of angels, and with their dreamed delightful lands. For there, one experiences similarly, as angelic souls experience in the fallen palace earth. 111. God created heaven and angels us, simply because he is a romantic and mystical seducer. Therefore, he had to create something so that he would have someone to seduce in his kingdom of love. When someone falls in love with you, most often he says, I see the whole world in you. And God is just like us. In each of us individually, he sees the whole world, his whole heaven. Strange, not at all. Why be surprised here, since we feel the same way? Women towards men, and men towards women. I would add, everything with God can be asked out, even a little heaven high on low earth. With God, everything is possible. It is only necessary to ask, and at the same time not to forget that at our own request, we abandoned the lands of happiness that were guaranteed by God. Now we can only ask that he give us the opportunity to return to this wonderful place. Mistakes and experiments cost money. No one can get there unless they are calm and doing good. 112. True love is an ocean on which one can swim, explore new lands, its liquidity drink, splash and chill from the excesses of the mystical gusts of the heart. 113. Science by science. But we still somehow mysteriously become aware of our own soul, which material science doesn't even have a clue about. No idea at all. We have complete veils of the soul in the form of the senses of the body, but still, we can discover something. Not through science, because it is based only on the senses and logical thinking. And this is not enough. Much too little. Science and materialistic technologies always lead to the retreat of civilization, to its collapse and oblivion of how things were already in the past. And yet, here were already higher civilizations than ours at present. Padre Pio's words, "The soul is a challenge to minds liberated beyond material goods." 114. Let's think. What would it look like if this wonderful, wonderful, loving God were to cast his beloved children into the abyss of hell, and for all eternity? Wouldn't we look at such a parent with distaste? Probably yes, no one would love such a God. He would turn away from him. Unfortunately, the teachings of the churches treat God in just such a way as bad, unmerciful, throwing all sinners into hell. The question is, and who is not a sinner, since we all consciously left heaven once? After all, we feel that God is the most tender mother. Something seems to be at play here in the gospel teachings, and the teachings of church representatives. Yes, we know from human experience that any mother, no matter what she may be, even the son of a criminal, will defend and justify in court. She would never want her child to be in solitary confinement, prison, hell. God, the creator of children, would be less tender than a human mother? Never. He is the same as any mother. Hell is a kind of drug promoted by religious writers to wrongly control people's morality. Hell, it is a stimulant of fear for the practical use of the material economy of the churches, and once even the state. It is necessary to move away from it. It is high time. 115. The heart does not have to abandon anything, because everything belongs to it. This is the original assumption of heaven. But on earth, the ego distorts this picture permanently, because it fears that someone will take something away from it. Everything belongs to you, but you are told through masked natural laws that not everything will be yours. Fight and conquer. This is how we were tricked into progress. In the original, there is no progress, because everything is fullness. Our leaving heaven ended for us with destruction of personality, blemishes on soul and body, progress in matter, and there won't be much in this cosmic mess of yours anymore. You want to have everything back, reach for the original. 116. To make it better and closer to heaven on this earth, we must together radiate noble goodness gently on the membranes of change. I hope that they will drown out the rumble and shriek of disbelief, infantile politicians and artists. I hope they will clear this lake of everyday life, infected with the cyanobacteria of hubris and little serious false consciousness. Without religion, however, there is emptiness and quantum mechanics. Without religion, we are dumbed down to the senses and pushing with our elbows for prestige and money. Is this enough to defeat death and live forever? I doubt it. It may only seem that way to someone, but nevertheless, a gray hair will get him. And then what? Again, atheism and hello soul. Well, how much can the same? Billions of years is not enough. Reincarnating indefinitely in the cosmos fallen heaven with the permission of God's mercy. Let's not exaggerate, gentlemen and ladies. It's time to understand your existence. 117. Nothing is relative or absolute. At the same time, there are no cases. Hard knowledge, double-edged. But this happens only in a fallen cosmos. In the worlds of ideals, i.e. in the cosmos of perfect heaven, these problems no longer exist. There is absolute freedom, which nobody notices, and love, which nobody pays attention to. Because joy and happiness is the generally accepted norm of all. The fallen cosmos, the one we live in now, is surrounded by a body of perpetual suffering. Therefore, it is necessary to look into the fortress of own soul as often as possible. There is reassurance and the hope of regaining heaven. Here we look for love all the time. There we have it. 118. Man is so enlightened that nothing, and it is absolutely nothing, does not know what is going on in his body on an ongoing basis. How neurons are now circulating in the head, or red blood corpuscles in the veins, and billions of other things too numerous to list, and related to nature itself. Doesn't this make us ridiculous in the eyes of the soul? The question, who am I? And who is my soul? And what is an imperfect, skin-covered aging body? We are so enlightened that we are walking in the dark and in the dark. Isn't this a kind of anti-science habilitation? A giggle of helplessness? What has happened that we are so humiliated in every way? Whoever falls on the trail of the answer to this question, what a bit lighter to live in this kolkhoz of forced labor, forced breathing, heartbeat, forced possession of a flightless and ignorant body. This world of all places is wallpapered with ignorance and all sorts of unheard of limitations. This is not hopelessness, but hope for enlightenment. 119. For a wise thought to come to you sometimes, a sentence spoken from the heart and not from the mind, it sometimes takes a minute of thought. 5 minutes, a week, a month, a year, or even a couple of years. It depends on how quickly you evaluate the reality you see and don't see. It all depends on your intelligence, the science of the heart, no longer addition and subtraction, but multiplication and integration. The wisdom of existence. 120. Everyone should develop in themselves an inner compulsion to seek the core of life. To begin with, notice the material world, materialism, atheism, the senses of the body and map cosmic, personal, systemic, political, opinion and religious conflicts. That is to say, start with the natural path to the goal. However, the main goal is fully invisible. This is where the difficulty lies. In the beginning, one needs simple education, learning. In the next stage, only faith is needed, because learning, resulting from the limitations and possibilities of the material mind, turns into complete ignorance at some point, becoming useless. The longer we walk towards the goal, it will get closer and closer to us. At the end of this journey, rays of knowledge will appear again. But this knowledge will no longer come from this world, but from the original. 121. As long as we remain in the physical body, faith remains our central option for opening our minds to supreme knowledge and extraterrestrial love. Faith is the pinnacle of knowledge. Material science is a compromise of the soul, dragging us into constant intellectual and existence problems. Consequently, dissatisfaction and suffering. The lightness of faith is the powerful knowledge of the original heaven, set on the all possibilities of eternal goodness. It takes some courage and honor to embark on such a path. As soon as you decide to take such a direction, you will automatically stop offending your soul, which is something completely different from the human body. You will appreciate your true capabilities beyond the mind, beyond the body, at the stage of our current development. And one more thing, this body is not our original shell, but has cleverly fused with our soul, so that it can completely obscure it. And this is happening because of the trickery of science and the free will of aliens, angels, living in the fallen heavens of space. The senses, the body, they veil the soul and heaven. Padre Pio's words. 122. There are some people in the world who never think about life. They enjoy collecting various objects, cooking, laundry, constant cleaning, preparing Christmas Eve, name days, holidays, sitting on the plot. They enjoy making a career, learning, etc. Never, but never, do they think about the deeper meaning of what they are doing. And in this way, they miss something important. They miss out on even greater satisfaction and delight in life. 123. Life is nevertheless a mystical journey outward and inward of a mysterious being that bursts with the heat of happiness. Happiness does not need consciousness in the human sense. In general, neither consciousness nor thinking is needed so much for happiness. Consciousness and thinking, under the influence of happiness, sort of switches off, enters superconsciousness and superthinking. 124. The problem is that the mind and all the minds of this world tell us something that anchors us in integration with this world of feeling and thinking. We have all the gates to our own souls locked. We don't even know it. The joy of feeling I am is stronger than the original truth of being in eternity. But this is the deception promoted by angelic manipulators, which disregards the soul for themselves and pins suffering on all the living in the form of illusory consciousness and an egoistic sense of I am. I know how painful this knowledge is, how inadequate to this fallen reality. Living here, we use the whole personality equipped with memory, feeling, consciousness. But in fact, it is a hypocrisy, hammering us into the ground of impermanence and limitation. 125. Limited consciousness, once it has been imposed on us, can be used for spiritual growth. It depends on us whether we want to overcome the limitations of material heavens, or continue to remain in them and agonize all, perhaps, the next life. We know very well that our consciousness can't do anything. Yet with this we get excited. It can't even love. So it is necessary to reach for the greatest treasure, where all options and possibilities are available. 126. The true heaven is as real as what we see with our eyes and feel through our bodily senses in this world, because this world was created in the likeness of that one. But as we can see, it lacks much. Where then is heaven? Partly we see it in matter, here and now, but in the reality we are concerned with, it is outside the material world, in the hereafter. Just as there is a beautiful world of tangible forms in this world, so is there a world of tangible forms in that world, in and around the soul as on earth. Earthly eyes do not see higher, volatile forms and define them through imagination, most often as ideal forms or beautiful fantastic fairy tales, which we love very much, and rightly so, because it is impossible otherwise, until the whole soul nestles in that world. Then it will see heaven blooming with the attractions of love, concrete, and the most sensual that can be associated. But these senses of the heavenly body are the very honey of love, which is not capable of harming anyone. Conversely, it equally invites everyone to the most wonderful caresses without limitation. Love in love. 127. The perfect worlds of our eternal parents are different from the fading, dying worlds or heavens in our material galaxies. In the perfect worlds, forms are perfect, volatile with no fixed qualities, and one lives there forever, in a universe made of water, stones, debris, etc., and the blinding light to our eyes by the rays of the material nuclear reactor, i.e. our sun. Everything is the other way around. A wise person knows how to explain it to himself, why he chose rubble instead of the palaces of eternity and delight. There are no coincidences. We chose this life quite consciously, perhaps a little manipulated by the enchantment and promises of the rulers of the fallen angels, which decided to create independent heavens. And as you can see, nothing came of it. We unnecessarily let ourselves get screwed into it. 128. Why are we often lost and unhappy? Because we don't understand our own soul consciousness, which lives within us with an extremely pulsating life. When we understand, even though we have enormous mental and chemical limitations, or at least come close to explaining this fabulous phenomenon within us, our heart will calm down and our soul will catch a breath of delight. This delight is precisely eternal life. 129. The closer you get to your good fruits, the more you forget about them, and that's a very good thing. By doing so, you are doing something that is common to all and is the joy of the entire universe in which you currently live. As if it had slipped your mind, I'll remind you, we are currently on our way to another universe. That's why there are such strange turbulence in honing all virtues. And if you have to gain virtues, goodness, love, it means that you have lost all these nobilities, and you take up work on yourself anew. 130. If you were to set something off in life, whatever that means, first set your soul off from the inside. Light the fuse and momentarily wait for it to explode with positivity, smiles, and love. You have these possibilities, although they have been deliberately hidden from you, for the duration of this life. Rebel against the world and yourself for the unfair game, being played against you from birth to death and beyond. Treat love as the most wonderful fragrance. Inhale its charm until unconscious, to neutralize the unpositive ego. Then only take on the rest, whatever that means to you. You have to be crazy to understand life. Padre Pio's words. This madness is to be divine. And by the way, you will direct to the happiness of many lost angels in the galaxy. 131. If I were talking about God or were to write a gospel, I would certainly do so through the lens of love of God and neighbor. No other way. I am also convinced that whoever has a spirit of tolerance and love of God understands it similarly. Little does he know exactly which sentences in the Gospels are 100% true, and which have no spiritual meaning, which words encourage and almost save, and which condemn and accuse for the use of the dark side. In the Gospels, not everything is as it should be. The Jews changed a lot because they had authority over the original writings. 132. If I were to advise you on who you would want to learn holy patience from, I would point you to the greatest master. He is not a false guru. Bow before him heartily and even kneel down. Here's your patience powerhouse, the spider on your wall, whom you constantly sweep away in disgust and despise whenever you look at him. And it is he, the master above masters, your ideal of patience. 133. Victories or defeats are not important. What matters is good and friendly to us. God beyond religious and philosophical ideologies. 134. There is no unity and there will never be unity in this cosmos. That's why many civilizations are born and perish immediately, irretrievably on different planets, in different star systems. Only suitcases of dollars appeal to the rebels of God. This also applies to businessmen bishops with rings on their hands, which they twist on their finger out of boredom. Manipulation. Yes, they are anchored, amen, to the matter. Do they have a chance? They always have. They are children of the same parents as we are. In fact, we are all going in the same direction, to live healthy and as long as possible. Some go further, applying for eternal life. 135. Life is an amazing puzzle. Our knowledge, a hole in a hole, good for a while. But the thing is unreal, to be able to exist peacefully and eternally in such ignorance. Knowledge is power. Knowledge is the right side of temporary faith, needed for the development of cognition, so that science will not be limited to the mere construction of knowledge, but faith will give it lightness, feeling, and set far-reaching goals. 136. Emptiness. First you have to produce this emptiness in your mind, and then you enter it, and there is already something, like nothingness. And the nothingness has to face the thoughts. That's why there is no emptiness. There are thoughts and feelings, as the most beautiful and powerful entity. Don't be lulled to sleep while you sleep, only to find later that emptiness exists. Sleep is a thought entity. 137. Everything that is harsh in the Gospels is fundamentally wrong, because it contradicts love, humility, and forgiveness. Probably centuries ago someone cared, for selfish, religious, or political reasons, to intimidate people and have power over them. Hence they decided to change something in the Gospels. This was certainly the case. After all, the good news is supposed to encourage, bring joy, love, contentment. It is supposed to save, uplift, not persecute and accuse. We know life. We have learned history. We know how it is different with this love and tolerance. In the name of love, even we're able to kill people. And all because someone dishonest changed the records of the gospel and radicalized it. 138. Such is the dilemma of love, that I must love for love's sake. With love I perish in love to find you in the highest love. What is this love crazy? I'm lost in it and have forgotten the multiplication tables. I want love, but I see that I have to inflict rape on myself to get it. Thank you, my love, for these madness incomprehensible. You have wounded my heart so that I will never again fall into the depths of indifference. 139. Every human being has a spiritual portal of the heavenly gates within himself, but he has forgotten about it due to blocking it, mainly by other beings who have the power to fully control our freedom and consciousness, birth and death. We only think we have freedom, but in fact we have an illusion, and in that illusion imagination. None of this. At any moment you can be attacked, eliminated, if only by the ill-constructed in its structure, selfish nature, Mother Earth, which consumes everyone without a second thought. Be sure, you will die at the hands of nature or at the hands of the followers of that nature. What can you do? Seek the mystical nature of your nature, what fell from heaven to earth. You must reverse this process now. This is what our salvation is all about. Jesus understood this well, which is why he often said to seek first of all what is above and not what is below. 140. This world has been spoiled energetically, chemically, genetically, by the scientists of cosmos, and from now on, whoever is born in it will not survive, he must die, even if he has a lot of wealth, treated by the best doctors. It is necessary to think seriously about this. Ask for help from your parents to understand this, and make a decision to cut off from such scientists. The problem of death and disease in Christianity is unscientifically called original sin. Religious language uses different words, but talks about the same thing. Talking to God about mistakes, free will, extending life indefinitely, does not have to be an act of traditional religious devotion at all, but should be a simple conversation, or the attitude of a desperate child to a parent. 142. The premise of the cosmos and then life in it by angels, aliens, delicious, very rich, sometimes subversive, as it is in every world is this. You are to live and nothing more. You are not allowed to know absolutely nothing about original life, about heaven, about our parents. That's how it's planned. Even Jesus found it very hard to break through here with his unparalleled philosophical and mystical knowledge. Because these scientific manipulators, cannot kill or dismantle our souls. Yes, they spoil our consciousness with the limitations of matter. Evolution is one big act of manipulation of our consciousness, from which absolutely nothing results. Evolution hides the truth about our soul. It is an act of revenge on us, who defied our creators of the body. Well, and they acted out. What can we do? Humbly ask for help from pure beings, and our parents. Much can then change in our soul. Everyone needs to work on it mentally and emotionally, to at least grasp the cause of all our troubles and sufferings. 143. Life in the materialistic concept always ends in pain, etc. Wrong analysis and perception of ideas. Life is not life. It is something much more interesting and beautiful. But this must be noticed, and not based on the glass and wise gray hair, or eaten teeth on the philosophy of being. The happiness of God transcends existence and the scientific work of the universe. If we want to copy this life, one by one it will appear and perish, like hens' eggs and their beautiful chicks. Consciousness is something greater than material existence, so specifically finite. Consciousness liberated from the concept of precarious forms of existence becomes heaven. In this life, one can only trust that it is so. We have everything covered and sealed with 100 locks, with thousands of micromolecular chains. Everything has been taken care of so that we lose our true identity. And this is how it happened. You are born here, and you don't know where you are coming from and where you are going. 144. There was a man in history who said that even in the taste of food, it is necessary to feel God. He also used to say, if you find a delicacy in meditation, stop at it and take pleasure in it to the end, until it loses its taste. Sam, when he played the harmonium, he fell into ecstasy many times. And his name was Ignatius Loyola, a Jesuit. Yes, but I will add something else. Although he fell into ecstasy, he remained a gray man. He didn't remember much from the ecstasies. He didn't even know that he was a rebellious angel. But the fact that he proposed to taste God even in food, that's a good thing. Because in this mechanical, sensual way, we slowly change this chemical, metallic, leaden, stony cosmos into something more attractive, something loving, spiritual, joyful. The heavens in this world are fallen, and thinking of God is the only thing that helps this world to return to the original path of eternity and non-suffering. Divinizing the world with our love, helps it, and arouses a better relationship with beauty and happiness, with hope for the infinity of our existence in eternal pleasures. 145. Evil means one thing, that we are the ones who messed up, at the same time with the opportunities given to us by God, freedom. I know that angels to this day still come out of the original heaven, curious about some experimenters, what is behind the veil that their friends, colleagues created. And they are born here and there, and entangled in politics and cosmic federations. Material, imperfect. They spoil their consciousness and see no turning back from this matrix afterwards. So it takes enlightened and powerful ones like Jesus, Buddha, Krishna to remind them of all this. 146. Suffering was never the intention of the Supreme Consciousness. Some beings never experienced, and will not experience the low degrees of humiliating development in our worlds, just like God, because they just stayed with God, untouched by thoughts of destruction or heavy matter. It happened to us, unfortunately, and we should work now to unscrew it in our souls, for the general and personal good. 147. It is necessary for us to strive again for perfection, and yet we were created perfect, just like the rest of us, who live forever and create opportunities to know beautiful touches of love in the cosmic heaven of God. I would add that our current manipulated cosmos with an unstable foundation, characterized by a broken life support algorithm, without a perpetual motion machine, i.e. transient, full of debris and dust, full of broken light, is not the work of God, but only an attempt at imitation by angels who consciously left heaven once. That's why there are such huge problems here. These angels, after various transformations and evolutions, spherical transformations, are us today too. We live as suffering beings in an insane material paradise. Everyone gets sick and dies. This is how we are fixed with our personal consent. Man is a corrupted angel, but there is hope of returning to the original. 148. Wise and humble thinking, beautiful dreams, inner pursuit of the ideal, discovering the divine element in own soul, is a super method to avoid evil in this uncertain world of emotions, intellect, and material forms. Although this world is a vestibule of heaven, in the words of Padre Pio, a reflection of that one, it has a lot of confusion and uncertainty. This was mentioned by both Plato and Jesus. 149. We strive for impatience, not the other way around. We desire positive emotions, comfort, beauty, art, creativity. Evil happened to us through freedom, and followed by pride billions of years ago. From this freedom arose, today one can say, a fallen cosmos, which for many was supposed to be paradise heaven. Today, the ruins of it remain. And we, manipulated by friends and relatives, are still hanging around senselessly. More than that, almost everyone on earth wastes the chance to know, wastes their whole life. Padre Pio's words. In the next incarnation, we continue to wander in the same without any progress. And this reincarnation purgatory continues almost indefinitely. It's so hard to get out of earth, very hard. Control before incarnation and after death, stricter than at the airport. We will find out when we die what we will strive for again. What will pull us, and in what direction will they try to trick us with cosmic visions? Perhaps we will land again on one of the planets in this science-manipulated cosmos. Let's hope not anymore. 150. Love also means to bestow boundless tolerance and friendship on humanity and all of creation. To give to the world precisely what the rebellious angels lack. That is, humans here and now, in this dimension of reality in which we find ourselves. Thanks to the various intentions of cosmic civilizations. This highest form of example of love or tolerance, for love is as much tolerance, is the best form of reflection for beings who are eager to condemn themselves and others. Fortunately, Jesus brings us a powerful redemptive knowledge that almost no one in the cosmos can afford. Here it is. For I did not come to condemn the world but to save the world. 151. So far everyone weaves differently in views because they do not know the nucleus, which, for the sake of sacred freedom, allowed such unpleasant differences. But well, of our own free will, free freedom, we have to go through it. unnecessarily, but in the process we may learn something. 152. God is unemployed and homeless. He has nothing to eat and nowhere to go. He walks around holes and collects scrap metal in space to drink and forget his suffering. He is dirty, smelly. Everyone has disowned him. The city, when it sees him, spits on him. Poor God. He is like a mother in the war, who lost all her children, and walks through the rubble with the hope that they will be found. From this hope she lost her mind, became mentally ill. God once lost us because of the freedom he gave us. Let's help him get back on his feet. When we find ourselves, God will find himself too. It's a bit like he regrets that he gave us freedom. He can't deal with us because of it. I feel sorry for God and justify him entirely. God seems to love too much. Hence the problems. 153. All the holy scriptures provoke you to think that you, God, are the king here. This is not true. You are a wretched rejected, lying in pus and blood, dying and rotting. You don't have me because you lost me. So you die of bitterness like a true mother. You are looking for me in the garbage dump, in buckets, in nightclubs, in the gutter, in heating hubs where I shelter from the cold. You look for me in the scientific institute, where I ate my teeth on science and dozed off from solving puzzles. Today I'm sitting at a beer stall. You squat God, you ask me to buy you a beer. I bet because I see the skin and bone on you alone. You drink with me, but I don't recognize you, God. You look bad. I'm homeless myself, but I haven't seen such a miserable person yet. It can't be you. Lord, I'm convinced it is not you. Go away, stinking beggar, you don't belong here. And the cutter walked away, with tears in his eyes. He thought, again they scorned me, and I was among their own. How much should I drink with them, so that they would accept me as their own? 154. Just as there has been throughout the centuries a belief in the existence of hell, so I say today that there is no eternal hell. Padre Pio's words. Someone may feel offended by this statement. That supposedly, how so? Scripture is clear about the existence of hell. Well, this is a thread for a completely separate topic. Much could be discussed about it, how the scriptures came into being, and in what hands the proofreaders were in centuries ago. What the translations into various languages did to it. However, let's leave that to scholars. Let's stick to the spirit of love of the gospel. The issue is in whether it is necessary to take everything in Scripture literally, or should one feel the spirit in it rather than the letter of the message. The focus should definitely be on the spirit, on salvation through love and forgiveness. Evil is the result of the angels' creation, the cosmos, private heavens for personal use, in which we today also participate and play in them until death. Once we understand this, our drama will end, because we will never again want to live in the worlds of party and hierarchical clans, the lost high cosmic beings, called angels, which once came out of the original heaven and wander around, creating and controlling their creation's cosmos. Hell, if we're already talking about it, are those failed cosmoses that threaten every existence, existing outside heaven. The masters of the East did not yet know this to be the case, except for a few exceptions. 155. At a time of evil systems, fraudulent corporations, Jewish lobbies destroying the Polish nation and its national identity, shady business dealings, cunning, exploiting people for their own nefarious purposes, as is done by the secret ubiquitous services in Poland, the executors of which are leftist politicians and schizophrenic liberals. Then these words of the Lamb of Peace Jesus, who understood perfectly what was at stake and what the battle was about, are very much on point today. Here they are. Do not think that I came to bring peace on earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to divide the son from his father, the daughter from her mother, the daughter-in-law from her mother-in-law. This is how one is supposed to understand the light and dark side of life. The cosmic civilizations of angels, what they have created for themselves, their own private heavens, for the time being, cannot come to terms with such words of Jesus. That's why they fight to the death with him. Jesus is all about getting on the bright side of life, and that means quarreling even within families. Striving for humility and perfection in the cosmos arouses the fury of the dark side. This can be seen even among political options. 156. Everyone should be loved in all nations, but some do not want to love truly, because they love power, dominion, and wealth, by which they terrorize others with views. Lying media, widespread poverty, poisoning of water, food and air, vaccines what are supposed to extinguish us, causing various diseases, and all this in the halo of a police legal state, and they do it in the light of the law and democratic freedom. This is what Jesus opposes, and we along with him. 157. We know very well that parents are very good and merciful to their children. They find complete justification for them, even when it happens that the child is naughty, unruly, and spiteful. A parent will put up with anything. So does God. God is the best of the best parents, Padre Pio's words. There is no radicalism in him, on the contrary. Great understanding, mercy, forgiveness, justification, and possesses unconditional love. Can a person with a sound mind imagine a better God? A better parent? Never. Our heart tells us that God is just that. It is the divinity, not anyone else, that offers us to learn everything, to observe life, to ask questions, allows private convictions, intimacy, and encourages us to enjoy literally everything at hand. But the freedom of the cosmic heavens spoils almost everything. And what will happen to this freedom? Can it be fixed somehow? Slowly it can, but not completely. 158. Living in space is a real paralysis of memory and knowledge. It has become a recurring problem of ours. The shell of the body has corrupted our soul. The great ones knew this. E.g. St. Paul also came to this conclusion when he experienced the drift of memory and senses that blocked his perceptions to transcendence. He said, "The spirit strives for something else, and the flesh for something else, and hence there is no agreement between them." In the current state of our 3D reality, however, the body is the biggest problem. The eye and hearing. Through them, electromagnetic stimuli, biocurrents, quanta, neurons, auras, meridians, and of course, stimuli related to the entire chemical structure of the body, are constantly entering our consciousness, inner being. More often than not, the resulting hubris of life becomes a struggle for a stock of pleasures and opinions, at the expense of knowing the original God. 159. The body next to the soul does not exist in a fixed reality. In the cosmos, any consciousness tethered to matter is forced to change bodies from time to time. It is something like resurrection after death in another body and birth to other parents. The body is a shell over the soul, the words of Padre Pio. Until the soul enters the eternal body it has in heaven, it will cost space civilizations. Why? Because it doesn't know the purpose of life and likes emotions. Is this something bad? No. But why experiment so much and then suffer because of it? In the past, the soul knew the purpose, but let itself be screwed into a great science, independent of God, and lost a lot from it. Today it is regaining it, but with difficulty. On other planets, with other suns, it is similar with this. 160. The soul does not fully understand its crutch, the body, and it is in conflict with itself. The soul doesn't get smarter right away, even outside the body, because it has lost too much of its beauty and lightness through various lives. But someday, when we learn to pass into a higher state of consciousness, into the hereafter, we will probably get better. Everyone is responsible for this state in himself, and at the same time responsible collectively if he does not pass on the knowledge he has learned. However, let us remember that there are beings, evil angels, humans, and other aliens from other galaxies, teams of evil federations, closer to us, and they work on our souls to corrupt them to the end and take them in, offering them their paradises of pleasure on planets after death. Let us be aware of this. The Church of Jesus, Catholicism, dissociates itself from these manipulations of the federated worlds, unfavorable to the soul. It proposes to liberate it to the true eternal heaven. Jesus sometimes informed and educated the willing in this direction. He also said who rules these worlds, which beings, which lords and ladies. This has been simplified and radicalized a bit over the centuries, but that's more or less the point. Progress and technology enchant exaggerated souls and let themselves be bought with convenience, but also love at the same time. What they don't inform at first is that everything will pass and end anyway, as it always has. Eager souls catch the sticky stuff, and the matter becomes a birth issue in this world. At the end of life we get wise, and then after death we get a little stupid again. Only the strong and determined resign themselves to a utopian life in space. At the end one will grin, own teeth will grind from knowledge, but one will still say that one knows nothing. Padre Pio's words, 161. Gaining knowledge about our consciousness and its origin is very interesting. But still, concepts, even those outside of religion and outside of dogma, are different. Neither Buddha nor Krishna ever said everything about the origin of life, about its beauty and tragedy. One does not need physical suffering to experience it. It is enough to feel it on the skin of others. It is natural to do so. In the same way, it is not necessary for God to have to scatter himself in the clumsy and terrible cosmos to experience his own Holocaust, and then to save himself through experience from it. This does not need to be done. We, because we found ourselves here, have a very complicated and difficult situation. We chose this symptom of freedom and independence, or dogmatism of mind and imagination. Now we have problems to get out of it. But it was not God who got distracted, not he who started all this, but the souls. And not everyone took advantage of this opportunity for experience, suffering, and salvation. Then they did. Let me emphasize, not everyone had to pack in these experiences, and even more so the Almighty Being, because there was no such necessity or compulsion. What for? For the experience itself, for development, salvation. Development is a myth for the soul. Even more so for an all-encompassing, all-knowing, perfect, light, most perfect of the most perfect beings. No one needs either good or bad or experience, for all were and are saints, complete, equipped with thoroughly perfect qualities. Experience is our problem, created souls, selected from the heart of God, as individuals in various states of consciousness, so that we can benefit from free love, which does not always benefit outside heaven. 162. An important form of love is tolerance and forgiveness of each other, despite the law and detailed human rules. Deep love looks broadly in spite of everything. I know how difficult this is. A loving heart is an open and tolerant heart. Let's not forget, the law came about as a result of the lack of supply of free energy of all existing civilizations in the cosmos, the private heavens of the angelic gods, whose spiritual consciousness and perception has changed to the detriment of life not eternal. Everything can be unscrewed. This is the good hand of God, which he has given to all without exception living in cosmic civilizations, in different galaxies, on different planets, to save his children from there. Padre Pio's words, 163. God can annihilate the soul. Very rarely does this happen. He can blow out any fire. Souls that spoil other souls must be careful. A soul that plunges into infinite evil will spoil its consciousness so much that it can no longer be good. God can annihilate such a soul. Padre Pio's words, 164. The soul by its spiritual nature loves everything and everyone in all its fullness. The problem is life in matter, the limited body, and in it the sharpened senses, accepting only verbal reality. If purely material perception, sense perception, materialistic beliefs were absent, the problem would be solved immediately. Why? Because in heaven you don't marry and don't get married, because there is no sensory body or views based on low vibrations of matter, unlike the material worlds. There are completely different conditions of existence. First of all, not harming anyone or anything. Neither eye has seen nor ear has heard what God has prepared for those who love him. These are the realities of eternal life. There one loves everyone equally. Padre Pio's words, on earth, it is rather difficult to have such an attitude, because our consciousness of love has been separated from its source. Who has separated it? There are those beings who cared a lot about it. These are unfriendly colleagues of the old days, angels who today, after their unfavorable spiritual transformations, disregard our aspirations to God. 165. I ask a fundamental question. How is the spiritual matter with ants, insects, animals, lions that have to kill other animals, because without meat they can't survive, etc.? Maybe someone has some interesting ideas to approximate the purpose of the existence of such individuals in our world. And I would add that these creatures are not stupid. They are intelligent. Do they have a soul like us? That is the question. Philosophical, religious, or atheistic, as it is in the cosmos. 166. The mind can do a lot, even create the world, but an inhuman mind, because it is too weak, minds living in near-perfect bodies, can already do that. There is only the question, why create worlds that then collapse on our heads? 167. Ethics and morality are artificially created sequences of conscience by the angels of darkness, applied to all fugitives from heaven. Freedom knows no ethics and morality, because it does not harm anyone. It respects, in the original sense. Here and now we are manipulated by mind and nature. So laws, morality, and ethics have emerged. At the core, there are no limitations there. But how difficult it is to find own wonderful and free soul, the humble soul. 168. In the world created by angels, that is, in different cosmos, different densities. In other words, in independent heavens, there is no perfection. Everything falls apart and falls apart after time. God does what he can, without infringing on the freedom of the angels, to help them get out of the trap they set for themselves by creating imperfect heavens, cosmos. And you can say, even God doesn't get out much in these imperfect worlds. Our freedom is the biggest problem for God. Instability and impermanence lays the groundwork for constant failure. God doesn't make it in these worlds either as we do. Maybe he would manage, wrecking everything. But he is honorable and will not violate the constitution of the free will rights of his children. And here's the rub. We messed everything up, and we ourselves now have to fix it. The crux of this repair is to understand the reasons for the failure and return our consciousnesses to the original heaven. 169. God respects every freedom, even the freedom of hell, Padre Pio's words. But let's not worry. He will eventually draw everyone to himself. He has his secret ways to do this. He sends his knights in every era into the unoriginal worlds to make the scientific world of angels aware of the value of returning to the Father-Mother. And surely everyone he created will one day be in heaven. The cosmos was completely unnecessary, but the angels insisted that they wanted to come out of heaven to try their luck. So it happened. And now we have problems. God is always the best, tolerant, and loving parent. We used to see him. Since the cosmos was created, not anymore. And we even struggle not to know him and not to see him. This is how everything has changed for us. That's why we are angry at ourselves and at everyone around us without even knowing why this is happening. 170. Suffering and death is a very meticulously developed method for discouragement and depression by the scientists of the fallen cosmos. Thanks to our sorrows, we produce the power that powers many psychic machines, created by fallen scientists, angels, and also people who can use this for their purposes. Suffering keeps us in absolute obedience to cosmic, physical, and any other laws we know in our daily lives. But this too can be used to flee from these fierce scientists where the fuck it grows. A perfect example of such a positive escape into clarity gave Jesus. While we are here, so we must suffer. The body is a heavy coating on the soul, Padre Pio's words. 171. In the knowledge of all things, one cannot philosophize too much. God is not a philosopher, but love. Through philosophy, one can get stuck and lose the true purpose. To stop understanding what one is striving for and what one hopes in. Philosophy will not help to know the essence of things. Padre Pio's words. And in essence, that's what it's all about, to know the divinity in oneself and in God. Philosophy is not for people, and was created as a shell for the mind, controlled by dark powers. Simple principles even a child can feel. Superstructure of the intellect. Who needs it? Someone needs it, as a tool to deactivate our eternal center of intuition, conscious interference, and mixing in the philosophy of untruth. This is the most effective temptation to know. The same is true of a plethora of laws and regulations. It is also a kind of philosophy to shatter the joy of knowledge and comfort of life. The dark power knows exactly what to hit so that we don't get too good at feeling happiness and knowing God. 172. The once most beautiful angel, along with his group, screwed us with his visions and promises. He promised beautiful heavens in space, more beautiful than the original heaven. So many of us followed him, and we all copy his thinking to this day. An example is consumerism and materialism, rejection of the true creator, our parents. Well, maybe we don't all think and do that anymore, but the very natural laws in which we have been enmeshed are evil, twisted, and force us into submission. Yes, this tendency can be reversed, but we need to start thinking deeply and seeking. Padre Pio's words, 173. God knows that we won't know everything here, so in order to help us understand life and the puzzles of existence associated with it, he has harnessed an intuitive sense of truth for everyone. So whoever wishes to seek the purpose of life will probably find it, against all the rogue aliens who keep trying to close off our path to the truth. So it shouldn't surprise us that God doesn't put frameworks, barriers, and absolute conditions on the matter. Yes, his hands are somewhat tied by the freedom of the rebellious angels. He must act in the cosmic heavens of angels, to which he has no authority, and yet he helps us and longs for us. He can no longer wait for us in his heaven. Padre Pio's words, 174. Since we are eternal individuals, then in heaven and on earth, everyone has love for everyone. But yet it is also like this. Because you are a non-repeatable individual, you will love someone very closely for a while, and the rest of the love doesn't seem to matter to you. You know this from autopsy on earth. After your souls untangle themselves from the grip of admiration and excitement, then your love spills over to other beings. And that's how you enjoy yourself for all eternity, visiting the most beautiful chambers and places of love in the heavenly, wonderful, artistic, palatial world. Padre Pio's words. I once asked Padre Pio if it was possible to have contact with everyone in heaven at once. He recounted, yes, but why, son, why? 175. Today, theologians and philosophers insist on their beliefs, physicists on theirs, astronomers on theirs. What is most interesting? Their views, however, change from time to time. Is this a good thing, or is it bad? Good, of course, because they realize the words of Jesus, for example. And I say to you, ask, and it will be given to you. Seek, and you will find. Knock, and it will be opened to you. I believe that truth in the case of man is very developmental and flexible. It is not unambiguous and obvious as we would like it to be. That's why everyone argues so much about views, evidence, and various interpretations. Today they are doing PhDs in a given field, and just moments later someone discovers something even deeper, more scientific, and of course degrades the previous doctoral thesis almost to nothing. And this happens constantly. And the truth waits patiently fixed in the broken atoms of the cosmos and broken souls. Will it pass liberation to the fullness of being? Yes, but not in this reality, in the beyond perceptual, beyond sensual, truly heavenly. 176. Without fear, everyone will return to the original heaven. Bad scientists, owners of powerful material heavens, will also return. But they need time to think, and God has plenty of it. God is the best parent. He will wait until the last angel man. There is no hell. Padre Pio's words. Galaxies die, suns fade, explode. These heavens are finished, but the owners of them do not forgive. That's why this drama and suffering continues. Words of Padre Pio. Although they themselves live in luxuries, however they die and are reborn like us. As humanity, we have calmed down a bit and do not want to participate in this game anymore. That's why they do not like us. They often take revenge on us. However, we can cope. They no longer have a great lapse on us. Although many people are amok and in awe of this earthly heaven, this constitutes their problem. It is not easy to understand all this, but slowly cognition comes. 177. Life seems to have two sides, just like a carpet. One is the pattern that is beautiful, but seen only by God. That is the top side of the carpet. The other side is the one full of twisted and tangled threads, without a clear pattern, which we do not understand as cosmic civilizations. We only see this left side. Therefore, we understand almost nothing of life. Whose fault is this? The matter seems to be more complicated than we think. 178. Even if a woman had a dozen children, several husbands, and a host of lovers, she would still not be satisfied for the rest of her life. Likewise with men. Even if you had 100 women at your disposal in this cosmos, you still wouldn't be satisfied and happy. The words of Padre Pio, what really matters is the inside, what it is like, whether it experiences the highest happiness and supernatural contentment. 179. You say you don't like politics and don't care about it. But did you know that your mind and your body is political in the cosmological system? You need to know what's in the grass so you can find yourself and your original ideas. Everything outside can shape you as it wants. To be independent is not easy. You have to work on yourself to find and let God in everywhere. 180. Because you don't have a memory in this world, that you don't know all the languages, and you can't express yourself correctly in your native one. That's why you learn the wisdom of life. In simple language, you can say great things, but that doesn't mean it can't be different. In other heavenly worlds, it is quite different. Here, someone has put all sorts of shells on you to keep you from knowing the truth, and yet you manage. Unless you lose your sharp eyesight and are consumed by the fog of wanting to reincarnate and taste the beauty, progress, and science here. But then you won't know wisdom and will lose your life, meaning you will remain in the same class after death, just as it is in school. Repetition. Jesus. Unless you are born again of water and the Spirit, you will not enter the kingdom of heaven. Almost everyone on earth wastes his life. Almost no one goes from earth to heaven at once. Padre Pio's words. 181. God did not create evil, although he could, because he can do everything. He only allowed evil through the freedom he gave everyone. Thus, for the side of dark power, we are responsible, because we fancied leaving heaven in the name of an idea, an even better heaven. We created a lousy cosmos, and that's all we could afford. There has been a total catastrophe. Today we have to eat vitamins, drink water, get oxygen from the air, so that our pseudo-organism can survive a few years in this wasteland of promised happiness, promised by the escapees, the angels from heaven. Rest assured, we too have escaped God, so we must function according to primitive earthly laws, with the participation of water, photosynthesis and light from the star, well, and a few other blueprints for biological, mental life, in a transient, material heaven. All that was left of the promised heaven was hell. Jesus told how to get out of this heaven poisoned by violence, suffering and death to gain happiness and eternal life. 182. We are all ancient angels, what left a very long time ago beautiful eternal heaven. Unfortunately, the private heavens established as a cosmos have completely failed us. They lack God or the divine perpetuum mobile. Therefore, now we all have to destroy ourselves in order to power material life. Fortunately, we are moving away from this direction, but the hierarchy of higher civilizations still controls us. Not everything works out for them, and not everything they can do, and we are increasingly escaping from their power. Those who have become gentle, loving and non-hurtful, wishing everyone the best, means that they have escaped far. Dark power is ambiguous. There are groups of scientists, artists who continue to create it. The robe of the material world also creates it, as an unfortunate product of experiments on unoriginal atoms. 183. The words of the Gospel according to St. Matthew. 184. Jesus, seeing the crowds, went up the mountain, and when he sat down, his disciples came up to him. 185. Then he opened his mouth and taught them with these words. 186. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. 187. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. 188. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. 189. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be filled. 190. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall obtain mercy. 191. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. 192. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the sons of God. 193. Blessed are those who suffer persecution for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. 194. Blessed are you when people revile and persecute you, and when they speak lies all evil against you because of me. Rejoice and be glad, for your reward is great in heaven. 195. With our transformation, things are different. To stay on earth is to screw us into a flawed existence, created by the geneticists of other fallen civilizations. And they are not at all concerned with our welfare, but with energy exploitation. If they help us, it's only the emissaries from the original heaven, and there are a handful of them, and in addition, by the world they are not favored, because they can tell the truth. The rest of the angels, what came out of heaven, do not help us at all. On the contrary, they interfere, because they do not see the lofty goal. In the same way, people are meddlesome. Unless one completes his education through reincarnation and lives here for the last time, then he can help from the heart. Angels live on various planets, including ours, under the form of a human body and a digestive system placed in it, which does nothing else but digest and destroy other living beings, in order to survive in this dangerous world. So with this transformation it varies. It depends on how much we know our destiny and the destiny of the cosmos, and it is not too cheerful. We have been fooled by the promises of chattels. The entire visible and invisible cosmos is a fallen heaven. That is, it has something of hell and heaven at the same time. From the assumptions of a beautiful sky in the cosmos, what is left is a great debris, smoke, dust, planets with volcanoes and quakes, storms. Hope only in God, whom we don't know so far anyway, through our own fault. However, everything can be repaired. The direction of seeking God, our soul, consciousness, the happiness of love, all inward to see the outer, overpriced heaven, and someday find ourselves in Him permanently. 196. At this time, humanity is already more aware of its identity, and what follows closer to God and His mysteries. We are quite advanced in development, but at the same time there is no shortage of insinuations, imperfections, and mistakes. However, it cannot be said that this is entirely bad. We are still learning, so we have the right to be influenced by illusions, and even lies. Lying and evil alike are teachers in our fallen situation. Maybe less nice than good, but without it here on earth, we can't do without it. Such is life here, such a strange system of insinuations and secrets. This is not just a matter of the present, of course, but so were the civilizations of the past that inhabited this earth, and not just this earth, but other planets under other stars in the sky that we see in the evening. By each star there are civilizations, similar to us and others. The reason for this situation is known: original sin. It is the sin of pride, of free will, of leaving heaven. We have done this unfortunate work, and the consequences are lamentable. That is why one of the beautiful angels came to this world, to show that there is a way back. It is the path of love of God and neighbor, from near and far. There have already been higher civilizations on earth than we have today. Padre Pio's words. 197. The matter is that what is old, ancient, perhaps even surrounded by tradition in the present day, does not have to be the whole truth. And it probably isn't. What was written in the past was dedicated to the people of the time. Today the issue of truth, God's spiritual development, the cosmos, is already seen differently. I believe that very deeply. Why? Precisely because Jesus pointed out in His words, "But when He, the Spirit of truth, comes, He will lead you into all truth." 198. Did you know that God is not religious? Not much. He is secular. God is a non-believer in a way. Atheist. Above himself there is no one anymore. So secularism is closer to God than religiosity. Secular love is divine love, religious rather not. Sometimes it is manipulation in the name of structures and laws imposed by angels, aliens. Light is not religion, but a light experience of own consciousness and love. God is the essence of our soul and our sensations. When we remove the veils, we will achieve bliss and eternal happiness in God. In our situation, however, it is better to be a believer. The worst angel in the material universe also knows that God exists. He doesn't even have to believe in him. But he does not forgive himself in constantly tempting us. And here is the buried dog. We have a similar problem. The error of the intelligence of the evil angel is that he does not forgive. Padre Pio's words, they created worlds and love themselves in them, despite death and disease. 199. Any love is divine if it does not hurt. To be such, it should be renounced, able to withdraw and be tender in feeling. Warmth. We learn this on our own every day. 200. The only thing that doesn't bore you in life is your consciousness, because you still have it and can use it indefinitely. It is effortless and painless. Well, unless you experience distraction, then it can hurt. In general, it is related to our body. It pushes us often into conflict, but love can resolve such situations. Every love is a consolation. Padre Pio's words. 201. There are somewhat similar realities in heaven as on earth. There is something of heaven on earth. Padre Pio's words. The entire cosmos is the work of fugitives from God, angels who dreamed of an independent heaven. Unfortunately, it did not work out as they dreamed. Evil was created. But as Padre Pio says, there is something of heaven on earth. Not much, but there is. Everything was modeled on the original heaven. Even imperfect material atoms are similar to heavenly atoms. We have heavenly bodies there, here physical bodies. There are spiritual planets here, physical. Souls are sexual. There is a love game there, flirting on a grand scale. People could even get bitter about it. Because this is the false record in people's conscience, since we have degraded. There is not only procreation there, and beyond that everything is. Sex better than sensual, unearthly. There you have the whole heaven at your disposal. And time also exists there, but not in the sense of transience, of a clock. Everything you want, what you desire, you achieve it, with the magic of love and the art of love. There are only substitutes left on earth, aging and inevitable death, which shows how bad it is in these systems of incomplete heaven. So let us strive for the original, and he is there, but outside the cosmic heavens. And this is something you should already know if you want to finish the space basic. 202. I once asked Padre Pio if there was gender in heaven. He replied, yes. It gave me a lot to think about. 203. The dialectic of consciousness and free will is a mixture of creation, which quietly does what it wants according to impulses unlimited by anything. It suffocates in this or unleashes joy. Heaven depends on ourselves. If we pass through the physical worlds and beat our heads against the wall of suffering, our orgasms of happiness will be temporary and temporary. If we pursue the heaven of eternal pleasure, we will gain it 100%, as the spatial and palace consciousness desires. God is free and does not forbid anyone anything, full comfort of good or evil. We actually choose between the extremes of existence of being. We have every right to do so as God does. The fullness of happiness and suffering. We choose for ourselves. God, you took delight. What will we choose after death? The ancient angels had the same spiritual conditions, and they chose what they wanted. Where are we? We are suffering a bit. Something is wrong here with faith and hope. Lack of love, not that choice. 204. Poverty, withdrawal, inability, laziness, lack of inspiration and hope, lack of desire to acquire spiritual and material goods, to acquire culture, can never be a good custom or a positive social phenomenon. Prosperity, as the name suggests, a good existence is good. Material wealth, and certainly cultural and spiritual wealth, is a treasure in this world. A good existence causes happiness at the level of the body and soul. It spells a wide mental and emotional spectrum. Doing nothing useful, developmental, if only for own soul, a person actually wastes his time in life. For good progress must not be closed. So let's learn, let's educate our minds and hearts, because it may come in handy after death, but also here. So let's create schools for teaching such universal values of mind and heart, where education would be done not only in basic knowledge of the world, but also from the knowledge of dreams and desires, from the knowledge of a good heart, spirituality, kindness, love of neighbor and respect for him. Today such schools are in short supply, so we have a serious slump, especially in the sphere of nobility, chivalry of heart and compassion. The problem is quite significant, because through lack of heart and spirituality, we are losing culture. And culture is the basis for ensuring that material progress does not threaten the peace and harmony of life in our world. I will do everything to ensure that my spiritual children are not too rich materially. The words of Padre Pio, 205. Promoting knowledge of various scientific and religious views, defining the essence of the universe is mediocre and not necessarily good, let alone true. Yes, it makes it easier to form own opinion and own personal conception of truth and happiness. But after all, heaven means something different to everyone. The words of Padre Pio, and the same is true of truth and feelings. No one can say they know the whole truth, just as no one can say that my view of beauty is perfectly the same as yours. Imagining God is similarly difficult as imagination itself is an untamed living garden. Beauty is a wide range of feelings, and it does not mean that it is ossified and uniform. And beauty is also God, if one can say so. So to embrace God is impossible. Everyone sees his attributes from a different angle of feeling and construction of the imagination, the soul. For each soul, like the body, is a different and unique individual. And this is actually beautiful, because it is devoid of dogma and stubborn beliefs that only create unnecessary tension. 206. However, the wide range of human experience gives us the opportunity to learn about the true relationship between spirit and matter. The pursuit of what path to follow is called reflective inquiry, in finding transcendental facts testifying in favor of absolute truth. 207. Every living human memory must ask the reason for its existence. If it does not do this, it is not intelligent. Instead, it deals with the norms of social life and the interaction of people and things with each other. However, this is not enough to know happiness. The inquiry must be specific, concerning directly eternal existence. What good is evolution when the impetus for defining it is still unprofessional questions? From an early age, we instrumentally inquire about all sorts of problems with the omission, however, of the most important one, eternal existence. We are swarmed with questions, but it doesn't give much. There are a huge number of sources of answers. Meanwhile, sober answers, sensible ones from the scope of the purpose of life, are virtually non-existent. For happiness we need such answers, so that we are not frightened by the apparent end of the fairy tale of life in the cosmos, but open wider perspectives. 208. Our knowledge is reduced solely to the study of the naturalistic idea, in which there is no mention of spiritual, eternal life. This conscious passivity of the entire system of knowledge is like a fuse for a revolutionary bomb that is already exploding. The cross-section of human knowledge is therefore not complete. Forgetting the most important thing shows how unenlightened we really are by the highest standard of knowledge about man and life in general. 209. By engaging in curiosity about life, a new vision unfolds before the mind, that noble romantic vision that is experienced through fascination, humility and bliss flowing from the heart. This is our great success if we get it. The result of human progress should be precisely the achievement of such satisfaction. This is what we have brains for, to ask questions that lead to God. However, the response to human life is therefore to seek. This is not so difficult again. Let's pay attention. Do people seek it? No. Despite the fact that they know of the inevitable death awaiting them, and in parallel next to nothing happens, and people still do not undertake any mobilization of the mind to do something about this death. to do something about this slipping life. Almost no one wants to consciously enroll in the course, leading to the solution of the riddle of life. Jesus suggested, "Seek and you will find." 2:10. In search of the Spirit, too much calmness at the beginning of the road does not pay off. You need to get nervous and pitch elbows on various libraries of knowledge. And then you will be relieved, and the degree of power will even out. In the first place will emerge that which is heaven, a heart thinking with love. And instead of a scientist, you become love itself for all. 2:11. He who aspires to the divine nature binds himself to all beauty. He can't stay alone with it, because he would go crazy. So he brags about it before the supreme beauty, and desires union. 2:12. A man of progress needs some substance. The mystic does not need it at all. However, as long as he lives in the body, he needs to eat and drink, etc. Sometimes he doesn't do that either, or even sleep. Mystics can do everything like Jesus, and sin for them does not exist, only the good itself. Even in sorrows they see heaven. Interesting way. A mystic can be anyone, no matter what he does or who he is. He can even be a drunkard or a prostitute, a drug addict. What matters is what he desires most deeply. And didn't Jesus say wise words? Publicans and harlots enter before you into the kingdom of heaven. These words should be followed by a red light for us not to judge others. Everything is permitted. There is only one thing that should not be done, knowingly harming. And therein lies the sweet secret of love. 2:13. Is it possible to love with thoughts? Of course. First of all, one loves with thoughts. Thoughts are the same as feelings. One without the other cannot exist. Only then does the whole noble drink of the gods, and feeling flow into the body, well, and do what it wants with it. It directs it, moves it here and there. It stimulates the senses to